you know, to action. The learning should bring to action. If you want to send to the group that we're on, and also we got to keep on keeping on at it, the attendance of the class. Now, the fact that you muted something, the computer, they definitely hear it on the YouTube.
Oh yeah, because once you restart the computer, I don't think it makes a difference. I think I don't know what happened though, but
I'm saying you could check after the class on YouTube to see or whatever
Oh, yeah,
that's coming out. That I have to check with the guy. Has he been uploading it? I don't know if he's been uploading.
it goes automatic. So all he has to do is all he does is he just names it for the right
It goes
page
automatically,
number.
and then they have voice on it. You're saying
No matter what, it's gonna go up
with voice,
with
even if you
voice.
muted it, whatever.
Yeah, the only thing he does is just labels it the right
Uh-huh.
page number for the day.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, we are on Memhe. You sent to the group? Yeah, thank you. Memhe Yom Aleph. We are on 54A4. Okay. Okay, so now up to the following question. Boi minei Rab Shimon bar Rebbe me Rebbe. Rab Shimon bar Rebbe asked Rebbe, it's the last line of the page. Rab Shimon bar Rebbe asked Rebbe the following question. Now we're turning the page. Hatzile tomorrow. Dates that were not fully ripened. And you put it in the basket. Let's say you have the basket, morning, the basket made from leaves of the palm branch, lulav leaves, and you go ahead and you take morning asaf. You go ahead and you take these dates that did not ripen on the tree. They didn't stay long enough on the tree, let's say, and you place it in these baskets until they ripen. So in the baskets, um, um, they ripen by itself. Like just putting in the baskets. You don't have to go ahead and put it on the roof. Reb Shimon Maho. What is the law according to Reb Shimon? We said Reb Shimon says that if you have, right, we had before the figs, right? We had the figs before according to Reb Shimon. Um, we had, let's say, the grapes, right? The grapes we said that were placed on the roof to dry out. Reb Shimon agreed that that would be considered mukseh, right? Because the grapes, when you put it on the roof, they immediately, very short time, they become not edible, and you plan on leaving it there for a period of time and pass throughout the Shabbat. Therefore, Reb Shimon would hold that is called mukseh, right? That's what we said. That's one of the cases of Reb Shimon that is mukseh. And also we said about the dried figs. If you go ahead and you put figs on the roof for the purpose also of drying, that's another case. Also, they become very soon after they put on the roof, they become unedible. And therefore, Reb Shimon said they would be mukseh, those figs and those figs and grapes that you place on the roof. Now, here we're talking about dates. The dates that you plucked, Rashi says you took it off the tree before its time, and you put it in the basket. You didn't put it on a roof, and by putting it in the basket, it ripens. So, according to Rav Shimon Maho, what would Rav Shimon hold? Could you eat them um, before they ripen? If you put them, are these um, are these dates before they ripen? Are they mukseh or they're not, or they're not muksa. Meaning, the only way you eat these dates be, before it ripens is only when you're really pressed. You have no, we ran out of food, nothing to eat, type of thing. You generally wouldn't eat it. So now maybe these uh, dates might be more stricter than fruits that you put in the storage area, according to Reb Shimon. And maybe they are mukse um, even before it ripens, right? So I went ahead, I put them in the basket, and they're gonna ripen. They didn't ripen yet. Okay, they didn't ripen yet. Can I go ahead? Are these they're in the basket, and I want to go now. I decide I want to take out from this basket these dates that I placed in the basket. My mindset was I'm placing it there until and it sounds like I'm placing it there until it's going to ripen, but it didn't ripen yet. And can I go ahead and move it, use it? Um, so if you look at the note number one, you know, even though they're not yet fit for eating, but they were not actively, they were not actively um,
Prepared.
they were not actively pushed away like when you put something on the roof.
You just didn't even think about them before Shabbat. Like the example of the dates in the closet.
Right. So the date we had yesterday about the dates in the closet, right? So we had what we said they were in the closet, right? So Rav Shimon, the case that Rav Shimon said would be a problem would be when you put it onto the roof, right? We said that was a more bigger thing of separating from when you had it on your roof and you put it onto your roof. But here what happened was it was just in the basket, right? These baskets are made from palm leaves for the purpose of storing these dates. They store these dates until they ripen. So they don't look at this as a major action of like putting something on the roof. Meaning something that you put on the roof, we say that is a total rejection of the item, right? We said yesterday, the storage area is not necessarily just might be something I just might not, and I'm not using. I put away in the storage area, but it's something that I might go to. So it's not something that I'm. And the storage area, we said, is something that it doesn't become unfit in the storage area, right? Reb Shimon would hold, even though, let's say you don't plan on eating it, but that doesn't make it muktzah for Reb Shimon unless there was so far the condition that you put it on like a roof. Good morning, Simon. By putting on the roof, what happens is that now it becomes unedible. In the storage, it's not unedible. Right? So Reb Shimon would hold there's no problem if I put it in the storage area. But here, it was like in a storage area, but on the but on the other hand, it wasn't ripened, and therefore, would we say, do we look at it in contrast to the other food that I store in my storage area? The other food that I store in my storage is ripened.
It's in storage and it was not ripened.
Right. We're right. So it's right. That's the question. In contrast to so if you went and you put it on the roof, the roof is an active action that you're separating. When you sign on 45B1, but here I didn't put it on the roof. Right, so now we already turned the page to 45B1, top of the page. So here Now, when you put these date, Simon, just to bring you up to date, we have these dates that you took off the tree before it ripened, and then you put it in the baskets to ripen, and and until they ripen, you will not be able to eat it. Only if you're really pressed to eat it. I'm really stuck. I mean, sometimes there's certain foods in your house you only would eat, like a banana, like an unripened banana in a certain sense, a green banana or a greenish banana or something like that. You only eat that when you have no other, it really stuck for a banana, right? So here, this food, what would Reb Shimon hold? Since now they're not really so edible to be eaten because it's unripened, and I only would eat it if I'm really stuck. Would Reb Shimon hold that? Therefore, it's like the figs and the grapes that they put on the roof, or perhaps, since by putting them in the basket, so they add in the Masifta the Gemara commentary, they add something. Putting in the basket does not ruin them. It just it ripens, but it's not like when you put it on the roof. It seems that it's not edible. Period. When you put the figs on the roof to dry out, once it starts drying out, it's not edible. But when you put it in the basket, it is still technically edible, but just edible in a not not ideally. What
would be a prohibition not to eat
these dates? Because the question
longer.
is a mukseh. The issue is mukseh, meaning is the fact that I put these dates in this basket to ripen, and it's not, and I wouldn't eat this unless I'm really pressed to eat something. Is that enough that it's separated from me, that it's mukseh, and therefore if Shimon would say I can't use it on Shabbat, or if Shimon would say that's not enough, it didn't reach the bar because I didn't push it didn't reach the bar of separation. That is and the fact that it's not uh, unedible when I'm stuck, maybe that would not make it mukseh. So comes Amalei. So Rebbe says, "Ein mukseh Reb Shimon ela grogrot usimukim bavad." You need to have two. This will not be mukseh. This item will not be mukseh. These dates, before they ripen, while they're in the basket, will not be mukseh because you need two points. 2 points is that you have to go ahead and and push it away with your hands. That means you went like when you went ahead and you put it on the roof. That's called um, pushing it away with your hands. And also, they're not fit to be eaten. But these dates, number one, I presume it's not. They're still edible to be eaten. And number two is even if a time of would not be edible to be eaten, but the fact that you didn't really put it on the roof, you just put it in a basket, that's not called pushing away with your hands. This is not called pushing away with your hands. Therefore, it's not called muktzah. So we need two things to happen over here. Now, right, so they say do we hear it in the commentary over here? They want to say like this. They they say you need two things. Number one, you pushed away with your hands, and number two, that they were not edible to be eaten ben hashmashot. When Shabbat entered, they were unedible. But these dates, number one, you didn't push them away with your hands, meaning you didn't do something you didn't do something. He says, they say, "Shemitchilasam lahoya omdim la'achila." You see, listen to this idea. When you have grapes and when you have dates and you put them on the roof to dry, the grapes and the dates were edible. And what you did was you pushed them away. You did an action that it was edible, and now you made it, and you showed you don't want to use it. You did something to separate them from you. But um, these dates, you didn't push away. You didn't take something that was usable and just put it separate from you. It wasn't the state that it was in was already not it was already not ripened when you started. So you didn't actively separate these from you. Innately, its status was that it wasn't ripened, and that's what it was before you put it into the basket. And secondly, these are also fit to be fit to be eaten before they even ripen. So you have those two aspects are going on over here. That makes it right. So that makes it less muksa that it's fit to be eaten if you're stuck.
More edible, less.
This is more edible, it's less muksa. In contrast to the the dates and the grapes, that when you put it on the roof, it becomes not edible because of the drying process. It's not edible. It becomes while that process is happening when it's drying out the liquid, it's unedible. Here, it seems that when Bein Hashmashot comes, it is edible. So that's why these and I didn't actively push something away by itself. It wasn't something I didn't made a move. I made the move to separate it from me. It was already that state beforehand. So therefore, Reb Shimon would not hold that this item is mukses. If we take a look, let's see how they are in the third place. Um, if you look at note number 2 in the article, in that case, two factors are present. The one who put the figs and raisins out to dry has actively rejected them, and they're unfit for consumption when they begin to dry. By contrast, unripe grape dates were never rejected from Shabbos use. You put them in a basket, that they don't see that's you actively separated from it in a real serious way. And the way we said beforehand, you know, they were in that state, whatever state they were in when I put them in the basket. I did not move it out from that state. I didn't make the move. That's where it was. And also, these are fit, we said, for consumption throughout. That's what it would seem like. Okay, let's continue in the Gemara. There is a Rashi in Gemara Beitza. The Rashi says the two items that Rav Shimon says that you can't use, the two factors that play a role that make something muksa, according to Rav Shimon, when you put the figs and the grapes on the roof, is that these were foods that were edible to be eaten. Grapes and figs are edible to be eaten, but I pushed them away. What did I do? I went ahead, I pushed them away by putting it up, bringing it to the roof to dry. And then once I do that, then they're no longer fit for consumption until they dry because they get ruined. But these, I did not push them away. I didn't put them on a roof. It's not that I did something to separate from it. Maybe its own status was because it wasn't ripened. That's maybe why there was some separation. but it wasn't so ripened, but because I picked them off the tree before, but I didn't do something to separate it from me. And also, um, there are people that eat from it. Okay, continuing the Gemara.
So some people are saying that just because it's unripe, even if you didn't take any action, that's enough.
Right, but that was the question. The fact that it was unripened, and people generally don't eat from it unless you're really stuck. Would that be enough to be mukseh? And the Gemara says Reb Shimon would say it's not enough. It didn't reach, meaning because the fact that it's on its own unripened, but people do eat from it when they're stuck. The people would eat from it when it's stuck. So it's not enough. It didn't meet enough requirements to make the Reb Shimon would say it's mukseh.
Okay, so nobody else has said it is yet.
No one, no, right. We don't say that Rabbi Huda would say it is, right? What would the other opinion hold? What would they hold about that? You see, maybe we should take out the Shulchan Aruch on this subject. A second. Okay, the Shulchan Aruch is in Siman Shin Yud Sif Beis. So let's see what it says here. Shin Yud Sif Beis. He says, our case, if you have, he opens up any food that's detached before Shabbat, that's able to be eaten, is not muktzah for Shabbat. Again, statement, right, Simon? No food that was detached before Shabbat. You took an apple that falls off a tree on Shabbat is muktzah. When Shabbat came, you couldn't handle that apple because it was attached to the tree. You can't cut something off a tree on Shabbat, right? So therefore, that apple that was on the tree when Shabbat entered, that apple will be, and then it subsequently fell off. There was a nice wind, and the wind knocked off the apple. The apple is muktzah. But if the apple was detached from the tree before Shabbat, and it was able to be eaten, now we'll have to clarify that more, able to be eaten, that apple is not muktzah. Right? That apple is not muktzah. Now, then he says, similarly, dates that were picked before they were ripened, and you went ahead and you put them in baskets, and they ripen on their own. You could eat from them before they get ripened. We don't say they're muktzeh because they're not ripened yet. But the figs and the grapes that those are different. That when they place in certain areas, they talk about they have certain places that they put them that they would be also the grapes would be different because they become putrid before they ripen. They become unedible before they ripen. And since they become unedible, putrid, you lose focus from using them. And there's two factors that are playing a role. You push them away. You actually put them in this certain area, and they talk about an area. The Mishnah Berurah says let's say the area back of the house. It's called a mukseh, a designated area. Or if you put them on the roof, right? That's that. We've been talking about putting on the roof. Since they're going to get putrid, So you lose focus from them. And there's two things. You did it, you made the move by pushing it away onto that area, to the roof, or whatever, and it's not fit to be eaten, right? Because it gets putrid. But in the contrast to the dates that you picked before they became ripened, like we said, number one, you just put it in the basket. You didn't put it on a roof. You didn't really push it away, right? Putting it in a basket, we don't consider that's called pushing away. And also, they are usable throughout the process. They don't become this putrid like what happens with these dates. So therefore, it's not muktzeh. And the Chafetz Chaim writes that when you put it in even when you put it in the basket, the dates in the basket that you picked early, there are people that eat from it. Well, like you're stuck, you would eat from it. So therefore, you're not really so separated from these dates, Simon. You're not so separated from the dates because people eat from these dates when you're stuck. However, the Chafetz Chaim says, but the figs and the grapes, when you put them out to ripen, once they stay a short amount of time, nobody can eat. No one eats them until they dry out. So you definitely lost he says in Messiah that, you definitely lost focus from them. You removed your mind from using them. And he quotes the Gemara. The Gemara says specifically the grapes and the and the figs are a problem. But other fruits that you put on the roof, so you put on the roof, you made one move, you put on the roof, you pushed it away. But you didn't have, but they're still fit throughout the process. But so but since these other fruits are fit throughout the process, they don't become putrid in the process that you wouldn't use it. So therefore, the other fruits, even if you put it on the roof to dry, if you on Shabbat you want to go in and take one of those fruits, you could, because you did not totally lose focus and separate your mindset from using those fruits.
More or less.
In this halacha, in this aspect, it will follow Reb Shimon. Exactly.
So the dates in your closet.
One and running. Right. So dates in your closet will not be mukseh. Right. Because they've been always fit to be used the whole time. They never had a time period that they weren't, but you have to have two conditions have to be met. You pushed it away, and also maybe that's not called pushed away. Also, by having it in your closet. So that should clarify the bottom line halacha, for Mark.
It's a high standard.
It's a high standard to be met. In order for that food to become mukseh, you have to really. So, because if it's edible throughout, it's not going to be mukseh. I don't care. You put it on the roof, right, Simon? You put it on the roof to ripen. But if it's always edible, so that you know in your mind that any time I could eat it, even if it's not ideal, Simon. It's like it won't be the first go-to. It'd be the last. But when people are looking for some food, they'll take what they got. But if it's not edible, you're not touching it, even if you really are in need of something. So that seems to explain this this Gemara. So now the Gemara says, Rav Shimon bar Rebbe asked his father, right? This last question was a question by Rav Shimon, the son of Rebbe. He asked his father, what's the law according to Rav Shimon? Right? What's the law? What would Rav Shimon hold about these dates that were picked early? So the fact that he asked his father, most probably he heard that his father agrees with Rav Shimon, that's lenient in the laws of Mukseh. Because if his father did not agree with Rav Shimon, why is he why is he inquiring? Usually you would inquire about something that's practical. But if you don't agree with that opinion, you won't really be so as focused in on that opinion. So therefore, the fact that he asked his father the question, that's what the Gemara is understanding at this point. I mean, there's always a possibility that you could ask your father a question that even though he doesn't agree with that opinion, but what would that, let's say you hold like Rabbi Vada Yosef, but what would Moshe Feinstein say in this scenario? Even though you don't agree with, you don't agree with that. But the Gemara is taking that the fact that he asked according to that opinion, that means that his father's in agreement with that opinion. And to that, the Gemara says, he doesn't seem to agree to the opinion of Shimon. Are you going to tell me, Rebbe letlei mukseh? Are you going to tell me he doesn't hold of all those cases of mukseh that Reb Shimon holds are not mukseh? What none? We have a Mishnah. It says the following: Ein mashkin Gemara Beitza. Ein mashkin v'shoftin et hamidbariyot, avol mashkin v'shochatin et habaytot. That we have, let's say, on Yom Tov. On Yom Tov, you're allowed to slaughter animals, right? It's one of the things you're allowed to do on Yom Tov. You can't slaughter an animal on Shabbat, right, Simon? You slaughter an animal on Yom Tov. And the way they used to like to do it, if you want to go ahead and make it easy to take the skin off the animal on the Yom Tov, they would go in and give it the animal to drink before the shechita. And that made it easier for the skin after you slaughter the animal to come off. So it says you can't give water and slaughter the animals that are outside the inhabited area. Because when Yom Tov began, you were not thinking of using these animals if they're not in the inhabited area. They're in the wildlife, so to speak. And therefore they're considered mukseh. Or but of a mashkin v'shoftin as a baitos. But you could go ahead and the animals that were in the inhabited area, that you're minded on those animals. So you're minded on those animals are not mukseh, and therefore you go ahead and feed them, give them to drink, and you can slaughter them, handle them. They're not considered mukseh. We're going to see more tomorrow about what this challenge is. Have a great day, everyone. Asaf, have a great day.